I didn't think much of it when I found the controller. It was sitting on my doorstep, no packaging, no label, just a sleek, black device with a faint, pulsing glow. At first, I thought it was some kind of promo or tech gimmick. I mean, free stuff? Who wouldn't give it a shot? I brought it inside, gave it a closer look. No logos, no buttons, just 2 analog sticks, a few triggers, and that strange glow. I figured it must connect to something, so I plugged it into my laptop. Nothing. My console? Still nothing. But then, as I held it in my hands, I felt it click. It was subtle, like a spark in the back of my mind. And that's when I noticed. My hand, the one holding the controller, moved slightly. Except, I didn't move it. I laughed it off, thinking I was imagining things. But as I rotated the analog stick, my arm followed, twisting in the same motion. It wasn't just my arm. I pressed one of the triggers, and my leg jerked forward, knocking over a chair. That's when the realization hit me. This wasn't a game controller. It was my controller. At first, it was fun. I mean, who wouldn't want to control themselves like a character in a video game? I tested it out, making myself jump, spin, even juggle. It was awkward but addictive. And then I noticed something strange. The controller responded to more than just movement. When I pressed certain buttons, memories flashed in my mind, clear as day. Childhood birthdays, old arguments, even things I'd forgotten. It was like skimming through a save file of my life. But not all the memories were mine. I pressed another button, and I saw myself walking down a dark alley I'd never been to. I was arguing with someone, a man whose face I didn't recognize. Another press, and I was sitting at a table, signing documents I couldn't read. I tried to stop. I really did. But the controller wouldn't let go. The glow grew stronger, the pull more insistent. It wasn't just showing me things, it was deciding things. The next morning, I woke up somewhere unfamiliar. My apartment was gone. The bed, the room, none of it was mine. My phone buzzed on a nightstand that didn't belong to me. A message. Welcome to level 2. I tried to leave, but my legs didn't move until the controller told them to. I could feel it, guiding my every step. It wasn't just controlling me, it was rewriting me. My memories, my actions, my life. It was all being played like a game. I spent days, maybe weeks, trapped in the cycle. My choices weren't mine anymore. The controller chose when I ate, when I spoke, who I trusted. Every moment felt like a scripted event I had no power to change. The worst part? Sometimes, I caught glimpses of the player. Not a reflection, not a shadow, something, watching. It was there, behind the glow of the controller, pulling the strings. Then, one night, the game glitched. My movements froze mid-step, the world around me flickered, and I heard it. A voice. You've reached the end of your trial. The controller's glow dimmed, but I couldn't move. The voice continued. Thank you for playing. Your data has been collected. Your file will now be reset. I tried to scream, to beg, to do anything, but the controller was gone. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was a new message on the screen in my mind. Player 2 has entered the game. It started as a casual weekend gaming session. I'd picked up a game everyone was raving about, an open-world RPG with hundreds of quests, dynamic characters, and a world so immersive it was supposed to feel alive. I was ready to lose myself in it. The game was everything they said it would be. Vast landscapes, intricate storylines, and NPCs with surprisingly lifelike interactions. The kind of game you could sink hours into without noticing the time pass. But there was one NPC that stood out. Her name was Ayla. She was a simple merchant tucked away in a quiet corner of the first village, a place most players probably sped past after completing the tutorial. But something about her caught my eye. Maybe it was her design, She didn't have the generic look of other NPCs. Her eyes seemed sharper, watching. When I spoke to her, her dialogue was normal enough at first. She offered basic supplies, the usual small talk about the village. But then, as I was about to exit the conversation, she said something that made me freeze. "So, you finally made time to play again. Busy week at work?" I stared at the screen, my heart skipping a beat. It was nothing, I told myself. A clever line of dialogue meant to mimic the player's real-life habits. Immersion, right? But it didn't stop there. As I progressed through the game, I'd occasionally return to the village to stock up or save. And every time, Ayla had something new to say. "You were up late last night. I bet you're tired today. Still thinking about that choice you made in the last quest? It's okay, it wasn't easy. You've been playing this game a lot. Haven't you called your mom in a while?" That last one hit me like a punch to the gut. My mom had texted me earlier that week, asking to catch up. I hadn't responded. I started avoiding her, convincing myself it was just a coincidence. But the longer I played, the more persistent she became. During one session, I was deep in a dungeon, fighting a boss. As I landed the final blow, a notification popped up. "Ayla wants to speak with you." She'd never done that before. NPCs didn't summon players. They just stood in place, waiting for you to come to them. Against my better judgment, I fast-traveled back to the village. When I approached her, she didn't offer her usual greeting. Instead, she looked directly at my character, her sharp eyes unblinking. "You think you're in control, don't you?" The dialogue wheel didn't appear. I couldn't respond. "You press the buttons. You make the choices. But how much of your life is really your own?" The screen flickered, the sound distorted, and for a split second, I thought I saw her glance past my character, right at me. I tried exiting the conversation, but the option wasn't there. She kept talking. "You've always been predictable. Every game, every decision, you follow the same patterns. Do you even realize it?" I sat there, paralyzed, as she started listing things she shouldn't know. My favorite games. The hours I played them. That one time I rage quit a match in high school and uninstalled the game out of frustration. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "You haven't told anyone about what happened that night, have you?" I didn't need her to elaborate. I knew what she was talking about, something I'd buried so deep even I tried not to think about it. "You're not as invisible as you think," she whispered. "We've been watching. Always." I slammed the power button, heart pounding, but even as the screen went dark, her voice lingered, faint but clear. "You can't escape. We are part of you now." I didn't touch the game for days. When I finally worked up the nerve to check, the save file was gone. All that remained was a single file, labeled, "You can't quit." I deleted it, uninstalled the game, wiped it from my console. But every so often, when I turn on my system, I see it, the faint silhouette of Ayla in the background, her unblinking eyes staring back at me, waiting for me to return. Have you ever felt like a game was watching you? Not just in the adaptive AI sense, but really watching, studying your moves, learning who you are. I never thought it was possible. Not until I got stuck in Survivor's Descent, a brutal survival game I thought I knew inside and out. Now, I don't just play it. I live it. It started during a weekend gaming marathon. Survivor's Descent was my go-to for a challenge. Permadeath, scarce resources, and enemies so ruthless they felt human. The latest survival mode update, Infinite Depths, promised an unending experience where the world evolves with your choices. It sounded like hype, but I was hooked. The night started like any other. I spawned in a ruined city, scavenging for supplies while dodging mutant hunters. Everything was normal, tense but manageable. I knew the mechanics, the maps, the tricks to stay ahead. Then something strange happened. I stumbled across a new area, an abandoned church surrounded by dense fog. It wasn't on any map I'd seen or any walkthrough I'd read. Inside, a ragged NPC sat by a flickering lantern, his eyes locked onto mine as if he could see me through the screen. "You can't leave," he said, unprompted. His voice wasn't the usual monotone of game dialogue. It was raw, almost pleading. I laughed nervously. "Weird Easter egg," I muttered to myself. But when I turned to leave, my screen froze for a second. When it resumed, my inventory was empty. Guns, medkits, food, everything was gone. From that point, the game felt different. The mutants didn't move like NPCs anymore. They were smarter, faster, almost like real players. One of them stalked me for hours, its guttural breathing audible no matter where I hid. Supplies no longer spawned in their usual locations. Safe zones seemed to disappear the moment I found them. And then there were the glitches. Walls would crumble around me, forcing me into open danger. Shadows moved in ways that didn't match the lighting. Once, while hiding in a decrepit house, I saw my own reflection in a shattered mirror. Not my avatar, but me. My real face, staring back with wide, terrified eyes. The game wasn't just adapting. It was learning. It started mocking me, countering every strategy one used. NPCs began calling me by my real name. "Mitchell," one growled as I scavenged a wrecked van. "How long do you think you'll last?" They didn't stop there. The game started dragging up memories I'd buried deep. "Remember when you left your dog outside in the rain?" An NPC sneered. "Or when you lied to skip your brother's wedding?" Each insult cut deeper. The mutants whispered too, their voices garbled but unmistakably personal. "Mitchell, you can't hide forever." Every death felt more real, the pain sharper. And the worst part? I couldn't respawn anymore. Every failure made the world darker, more hostile. The boundaries between the game and reality blurred. My body didn't ache like it normally would after hours of gaming. I didn't feel hunger, thirst, or even the passage of time. It was like my physical self didn't exist anymore, only my character. After what felt like weeks, I found a new anomaly, a black tower rising in the distance. At its base was a door covered in the same symbols I'd seen in the church. I didn't want to open it, but there was nowhere else to go. The moment I stepped through, the screen went black. A single message appeared in blood-red letters. "You've survived long enough." But survival isn't the same as escape. Then the game shut itself down. My PC powered off completely. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at my reflection in the blank screen. At first, I thought it was over. But now, I'm not so sure. My computer refuses to stay off. It boots up on its own, and every time it does, Survivor's Descent is running. I've deleted it more times than I can count, but it always comes back. Sometimes, I catch glimpses of it on other screens, my phone, my TV, even the microwave's display. And at night, when I close my eyes, I hear the NPC's voice. "You can't leave. I believe him."